Under the noise of distant artillery, while the front lines shifted by meters and minutes, an operation unfolded that no official report would ever confirm. It began with a rumor, something hidden inside a Russian forward command post near Rostov Oblast, something new, a system capable of blinding drones across hundreds of kilometers. The kind of asset that could erase entire swarms from the air and turn the battlefield static again. Ukrainian units knew it existed, but no one knew where. The truth was buried behind encrypted comms, masked signatures, and a grid square that never stayed constant. What followed was not a Ukrainian mission. It was something else wearing their uniform. At 2200 hours, an unmarked column moved east from Sloviansk. The vehicles bore Ukrainian markings, but none of the men spoke Ukrainian beyond a few learned phrases. Their call signs followed NATO phonetics, their rifles were suppressed, and their body armor bore no flags. Embedded under the 93rd Mechanized Brigade, the American detachment, Delta operators and cyber operations specialists had a single objective: locate, breach, and dismantle the new Russian drone suppression system before it could be deployed beyond the Rostov defensive belt. The system's code name was Folknet. Satellite Intercepts had placed its mobile prototype on a transport convoy 2 nights earlier, now staged near a fuel depot outside Milarovo. The convoy's escort consisted of engineers, electronic warfare officers, and 1 general-grade liaison. That was the target. By 0100, reconnaissance drones operating from Ukrainian territory had confirmed the convoy's layout. 6 transport trucks, 1 command trailer, and a radar array mounted on a BTR chassis. Signal triangulation showed pulse bursts consistent with jamming calibration routines. The Americans moved under the cover of that same interference. Low-power digital nets jammed their own signatures, bouncing through Ukrainian frequencies to appear as standard drone telemetry. Their approach began 20 kilometers west of the border, advancing through irrigation canals and tree lines until visual range. The night was heavy with humidity and static. Thermal scopes flickered, heat mirages distorted the landscape. Every shadow looked like a lens, every flicker a drone. At 0243, the assault team split. Alpha element took the north ridge, Bravo cut across the drainage ditch toward the fuel depot perimeter. The Ukrainian forward platoon staged a diversionary mortar barrage 500 meters south, targeting empty ground but forcing the Russian security detail to reorient. In the confusion, 2 suppressed shots dropped the outpost sentries. The Americans advanced in pairs, short dashes, deliberate movements, every radio whisper under 1 watt of output. When they reached the fence, bolt cutters bit through wire. A single motion sensor was bypassed with a looped feedback cable. The compound beyond glowed faintly with generator light and exhaust haze. Inside, engineers worked on consoles under flood lamps. The Folknet array stood in the open, its parabolic dishes pointed toward the sky, like steel flowers searching for a signal. The breach came at 0258. Flash charges, not explosives. Light, sound, shock. The first Russian guard didn't even shout before the second round hit him center chest. The Americans flowed through the compound, clearing structures in sequence. One of the Russian officers reached for a radio. A single suppressed burst ended the transmission midward. Within 90 seconds, the entire outer defense collapsed. Bravo team secured the engineers, zip-tied and blindfolded, while Alpha downloaded schematics from the system's control terminal. Data fragments scrolled across the display. Russian military code, test logs, modulation sequences. The core processor was still running calibration. It was a goldmine of information, but they couldn't extract it whole. Command had been clear, no recovery, only denial. At 0311, demolition charges were planted across the array, fuel trucks, and server racks. Each shaped charge was tuned for controlled overpressure, enough to obliterate circuitry, but not vaporize the personnel. The team lead gave the engineers 1 chance to talk. 1 did. A major in electronic warfare confessed that the system operated on phase inversion, not broadband noise, an adaptive countermeasure that anticipated drone flight algorithms before transmission. The man's hands shook as he spoke. He understood what destruction of this prototype meant. He asked if they were CIA. No one answered. The countdown started at 0325. The detonation rolled through the compound like a hammer. Flames rose high enough to trigger satellite alarms. Secondary explosions cracked through the night as fuel and munitions cooked off. The Americans pulled back through the tree line, dragging 3 prisoners, leaving the rest for Ukrainian rapid units to discover. Within minutes, Russian response teams began converging from the north. Artillery batteries lit the skyline with illumination rounds, searching for movement. The Delta operators melted into the drainage network, heading west toward the extraction zone near a derelict rail spur. By 0400, intercepts from Russian air defense channels confirmed chaos. Commanders believed the strike had been a precision Ukrainian raid supported by artillery. They had no idea foreign operators had been inside their perimeter. The surviving engineers were logged as missing in action. One encrypted distress signal from a mobile command node went unanswered. The FolkNet system ceased all transmissions at 0328. Its silence was misread as damage from Ukrainian drones, not deliberate destruction. Confusion spread across regional command. Orders contradicted each other. Within an hour, the entire drone suppression project was placed on hold pending investigation. While Russian commanders reorganized, Ukrainian mechanized units pushed forward along the same axis. Without the jamming net, their aerial reconnaissance reappeared. Guidance links reestablished, and precision artillery strikes regained full accuracy. For the first time in weeks, the entire sector of the front went transparent. Ukrainian operators could see, coordinate, and target in real time. Armored columns advanced under drone cover, bypassing static defenses that had relied on the Volknet's protective bubble. The front line fractured. Russian brigades pulled back under threat of encirclement. The Americans stayed silent. Their presence remained off the record, buried under multiple cover layers. Even the Ukrainian Field Command believed the assault had been the work of local special operations units. The 3 captured Russians were transferred under humanitarian protocols to an undisclosed location. Their interrogations yielded fragments of operational doctrine and a partial list of frequencies used by other experimental jammers along the southern front. The intelligence hall was labeled substantial. No medals, no announcements, only silence, and another line of code added to the war's invisible architecture. By sunrise, the wreckage of the compound still burned. Drone footage showed twisted steel, melted circuitry, scorched asphalt. The parabolic dishes had collapsed inward like broken mirrors. Russian investigators arrived within hours, cordoning off the area and removing bodies. They collected fragments of Western-made polymer explosives, but assumed they came from smuggled Ukrainian stock. In their report, the cause of the explosion was listed as a fuel ignition accident following a misfired power calibration test. No one questioned why several engineers were missing or why encrypted test logs had vanished from the server core. At 0640, a Russian surveillance helicopter overflew the site. Its sensors registered nothing unusual. No active emitters, no movement, only residual heat signatures. The crew transmitted confirmation. The jammer was gone, the area secure. What they didn't know was that Ukrainian artillery had already adjusted its fire tables based on the absence of interference. By 0800, coordinated strikes began hammering supply depots across the Rostov axis. Russian air defense crews scrambled to recalibrate radar without the jammer's frequency baseline. Nothing worked. The invisible shield they had relied upon had evaporated overnight. The breakthrough began before noon. Ukrainian mechanized brigades advanced under a dense cloud of loitering munitions. The absence of jamming allowed FPV drones to operate with precision unseen since early in the war. Columns of armor rolled forward behind smoke and dust, while the sky filled with electronic signatures from hundreds of small operators coordinating through encrypted mesh networks. Russian units, blind to incoming feeds, withdrew to secondary lines, firing sporadically into empty air. The loss of the FolkNet system had removed their electronic advantage entirely. Every engagement now played out on Ukrainian terms. At 1400 hours, American command received the final transmission from the detachment. Mission complete. No casualties. 3 prisoners transferred. No traceable signatures left behind. The data extracted from the Folknet's core processor was already en route through encrypted NATO channels. Analysts in Poland and Ramstein would spend the next 48 hours decoding its architecture. The information would rewrite electronic warfare tactics across the entire theater. The operation's codename, Cold Reverb, would never appear in public record. That night, as Russian units attempted to regroup, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. They had not been defeated by firepower, but by precision and deception. Every doctrine they had trusted, layered defense, electronic superiority, centralized command, had been subverted without warning. An entire system designed to make the sky silent had been erased by men who never existed. Reports from the front began to use a new term, black presence. Something unseen operating inside Ukrainian formations, directing outcomes that couldn't be explained by local capacity alone. By midnight, Rostov's regional command drafted a new directive: immediate redeployment of reserve jamming units farther east, activation of mobile radar along the border, and authorization to engage any unidentified ground units without prior clearance. The order came too late. Ukrainian forces had already crossed the previous engagement line, securing control of Milarovo and cutting Russian logistics routes in two. For the first time in months, the initiative had shifted completely. The American team was gone by dawn. Exfiltration through a commercial freight corridor disguised as humanitarian convoy, equipment scrubbed, identifiers erased, uniforms burned. Only the empty compound remained, a crater of fused glass and steel. The Russian engineers who survived interrogation would later describe the attackers as silent men with foreign rifles. Their statements were classified and buried. The official narrative settled into routine. Ukrainian artillery strike, accidental detonation, tragic loss of research personnel. But intelligence intercepts from the following week told a different story. Russian command chatter spoke of ghost units, of a strike too precise to be coincidence, of encrypted networks that no domestic system could trace. Somewhere deep inside a secure communications bunker, a general drew a red line through the words, Volknet operational readiness. Next to it, a single note, compromised beyond recovery. In Kiev, analysts reviewed the decrypted schematics and issued a quiet report to Western partners. The findings confirmed what they already suspected. The Folknet had been capable of adaptive suppression beyond anything fielded in the region. Its destruction not only leveled the playing field, it tilted it. The war's next phase would unfold under skies that belonged once again to whoever could see first, shoot first, and disappear before the other side understood what had happened. No one outside a handful of command rooms would ever know who made that possible. There would be no public statements, no footage, no medals. Only the silence left behind by a burned-out compound and the shifting front lines it made possible. The story of Cold Reverb existed only in fragments, classified under layers of electronic dust. But for those who were there, the memory was simple. The mission wasn't to win a battle. It was to erase an advantage, and everything that depended on it.